I decided to continue the story about a boy remembering his past life and publish 10 short stories from other people who responded to the video. I'm sure you will find these stories interesting. If this topic deserves continuation, write in the comments. Story 1. My daughter started speaking early, and by the age of 1.5, she spoke very well. As soon as she began to talk, she would climb onto my lap, saying, "You're not my mom, you're nice, but you're not my mom." I tried to explain to her that I was indeed her mother, that I gave birth to her, and she looked like me. However, she insisted that I wasn't her mom, that I was nice, and that she loved me, but I wasn't her mom. What's even more interesting is that she reasoned like an adult woman and presented serious arguments. I remember a particular incident. My husband was delayed from work, all the expected time had passed, and he still wasn't home. I started to seriously worry. There were no phones back then, and I went to the neighbor's house. When I returned home, my 2-year-old child was kneeling in front of a stool, and on the stool was an icon that she took from the wall. She said to me, "I asked for Dad to come back." When I told my husband about it, we were in shock. There were many more astonishing things. At the age of 3, she taught herself to read. The most incredible part was that she did it all by herself. She would just ask me for the names of the letters. Story 2. This is a story about my son. When he first started speaking, he always insisted that his name was Alexander, even though he was called Max. Despite efforts to convince him that he was Max, he would adamantly argue, claiming his name was Alexander. He often spoke about a war, describing how he and his soldiers escaped from Germans across a field into the woods, only to be shot. He still has a keen interest in World War II and knows a lot about it. Additionally, in the 1st grade, he used to write like Arabic, from right to left, and it was challenging for him to write differently. Although he has been retrained, occasionally, he still mechanically writes like Arabic in reverse. He is now 15 years old. Story 3. Until the age of 5.5, I grew up with my grandmother in a rural area without a television. One day, I fell asleep at the table. I dreamt that I was a young soldier among many others, standing at the bottom near a trench, while people with weapons shouted from above. And then the sound of automatic gunfire. They shot point blank, not in the back. Startled by the deafening sound of automatic gunfire, I jumped and woke up. I was not yet 5, and I knew nothing about the war. I never told anyone about my dream. This is the first time I'm sharing it. I am now 55 years old, but I remember the dream in detail. Also, in my childhood, I often had thoughts and questions about why I was a girl. If I were a boy, things would be different. Story 4. I want to share my story with you. I never believed in reincarnation. When my son was 4 years old, he claimed that he died before he was born. He said he lived when my mom and I didn't exist yet, and my grandmother was a little girl. He described fighting in a destroyed city, being killed with a rifle in his hands and dressed in military uniform. When my grandmother was little, it was during World War II. I thought it was just his imagination. Now he's 12, and he says that at 4, he knew nothing about the war and his grandmother's age at that time. He learned about the war when he was 6. He now remembers seeing himself in military uniform, entering a ruined house, spotting a silhouette in the distance, and then everything went dark. I am a Christian, and I don't know how to approach this. Story 5. Greetings to all who believe in such stories. My mother once shared a dream. Her mother had passed away long ago. In the dream, my mother was walking down the street, and a 4-year-old girl held her hand. This girl pulled my mom's hand and said, "Anna, it's me, your mother. Don't you recognize me? I've been reborn and now live in another family." My mom woke up, and everything felt so real there. She baked her special buns, which were very tasty, and remembered her mother with kind words. Life goes on, and one must always believe and hope. Story 6. Thank you for sharing. I want to tell you about a recurring dream I've had several times, with every detail and sensation being exactly the same. I am running through an autumn birch grove, pursued by Germans. I can hear their speech and shouts. I descend into a small ravine where there's a calm, little stream. I run along it, feeling the soft, damp leaves under my feet and smelling the earth. Suddenly, I hear gunshots and feel pain and a burning sensation on my back. As I wake up, I vividly understand that I was killed. It's intriguing because where I live, such landscapes don't exist, and birch trees don't grow. Also, there are no tanks or planes, unlike other people who shared their stories on your channel. It further convinces me that this was a reality at some point. Story 7. Hello. Your episode on reincarnation was very interesting. My nephew used to tell his father, my biological brother, when he was little that he remembers choosing his family and ending up in his mother's womb, recalling how he came into the world, providing detailed accounts. Now he is 20 years old and remembers nothing. Story 8. I often have prophetic dreams, including lucid ones, out-of-body experiences, and astral travels. In a dream, I have felt myself in different bodies. 2 episodes from different lives stand out. In one, I see through the eyes of a woman with a plump body, wearing 17th-century European attire, a white cap, a white apron, a long dark dress with a full skirt. I seem to be a cook in a tavern, coating fish in flour and arranging it on a large wooden tray. I wash my hands in a bowl, wipe them on the apron, pass along the counter, and enter the hall. There's one customer sitting on a bench facing the wall, a tall man in a white shirt and vest, drinking beer from a large wooden mug. I begin to scold him. Apparently, he is my husband. In the second episode, I am a slender woman, again seeing through her eyes. I approach my little house, part of a row of various-sized huts, ascending wooden steps, and opening the door. The space is cramped, with a bed on the left covered with blankets and pillows, and on the right, a shelf table with simple clay and wooden dishes. I know that I live here with my 2 children, but they are not at home. I step out of the hut and walk somewhere through the reddish-brown mud. I see my dirty wooden shoes and the hem of my dress in the mud. I approach a temple, open the heavy door, and cautiously peer inside. Many people are present, a service is ongoing, and the organ is playing, sending shivers down my spine. The windows are tall, with stained glass, and I admire the beauty but hesitate to enter. I think these were fragments from my past incarnations. Story 9. Thank you for your post and such intriguing content. I'm sure it helps many people gain deeper insights. When I was little, I never felt like a child. I always envisioned myself as a grown woman. Once, while walking down the street, I felt an unexplainable joy and a sensation that something was entering my body. I had a clear thought that it was the soul of my future child. Indeed, later I found out that I was expecting. The second time, I saw the silhouette of an adult entering me, and once again, I discovered I was pregnant. I never told anyone about it, thinking it might all be a figment of my imagination. However, my younger sister shared a similar experience. She also witnessed the entry of an adult soul, not that of a small child. Story 10. He had an old jacket-like thing, which, from his description, I understood to be a Russian warm quilted military jacket. When I showed him a picture, he confirmed that it looked like what he remembered. We are born as children but arrive on this earth with mature souls. If you have similar stories, share them in the comments. I'm sure many would find it fascinating to read.